Hello everyone, my name is Fawaz Sheikh and I'm part of Contrail Solutions Group here at Juniper Networks. And in today, I'm going to talk about Contrail Enterprise Multicloud. So the demo we have today is where we have an application which is spread across two environments. First environment is on-prem with OpenStack, and then we have the second environment in Azure with Azure VNet 1 and Azure VNet 2, one in Azure San Francisco being VNet 1 and the other one being Azure New York, which is VNet 2. And then we have Kubernetes as one of the orchestrator along with OpenStack. So Kubernetes master along with Contrail components reside on-prem, and we have one Kubernetes slave on-prem and then one in Azure SF and the other one in Azure New York. So let's log on to the Contrail web UI and take a look at our topology. So I have 7 vRouters, 1 control, 1 analytic, 1 config, and 1 database. Let's go ahead and take a look at the virtual routers. So as you can see, I have one gateway each in AZ and in AZ New York, and then anything which is listed as F5B6, that's for on-prem. So let's log on to my Azure environment and let me just filter based on this particular demo. So this is what we have: San Francisco AZ Gateway, San Francisco AZ Compute 1, and likewise Gateway for New York and Compute, and these map to the construct on the Contrail web UI. So the first scenario, we're going to launch a 3-tier application where our front end will be in Azure SF, our application, the backend will be in Azure New York, and then the database will be on-prem. And essentially, we're going to launch this application from a Kubernetes environment, and we're going to write policies in Kubernetes environment, and we are going to use Contrail firewall rules to basically write policies and get the visualization. So let's get started. So first we're going to go and look at our current tags. So let's do 100 records or 50 records. So this is what we see. Now let's go back to our console and let's look at the YAML file for our front end. So here we see the name of the front end pod is web pod 1. The labels in Kubernetes, we have web, HR app, Azure SF, and deployment being production. Let's also go ahead and take a look at one of the policies. So let's look at web to app. So here we'll name it web to app. And if you can see our ingress, it's an ingress policy going from web to app, and the name is web to app Azure SF to Azure NY-secure. Okay, let's look at our Kubernetes environment. So if we refresh the page and log in, let's look at our current nodes. So here we see New York AZ, San Francisco AZ, and 5B6. So these are my computes. And if I click on pods, currently there are no pods. So let's go ahead and launch our 3-tier application. And then apply the policies, which is essentially web to app and app to DB. Let's look at the current status. So my pods are coming up. So if I look on the right hand side, these are my Kubernetes labels that we just saw in our YAML file. So we have Azure New York, on-prem, and Azure SF, and the tiers are web, app, and DB. And then at the bottom, we also see the policies, web to app and app to DB. So now let's look at our Kubernetes dashboard. And let's do a refresh. And we should see the three parts. We do web, app, and DB. And notice under the node column, there are in each environment, San Francisco, New York, and then on-prem, which is 5B6. And also for each of these parts, there's a front-end service as well, web, app, and DB service. So now if we go ahead and refresh our Contrail page for tags, we now do see the application tag along with the associated ports. So these are the part that we just brought up. Now if we look at the security, because we did create security policies based on these tags. So these are the two policies that we just created. Let's confirm the names. There they are. And then let's go ahead and click on the policy to make sure they are correct. So if we were to look at app to DB, and all these policies were created from the YAML file in Kubernetes environment. Now let's go ahead and set up our visualization. So the project would be Kubernetes default. And what I want to say here is show me every traffic since now. So this would show up as no statistics, which is correct because I have not generated any traffic. Let's together generate some traffic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the front end of my web part, which will basically generate some traffic. So let's copy paste and hit on port 9090. My 3-tier app is running. Now if we go to our visualization and hit refresh, we see the traffic. So the point to note here is if you look on the outer arc, we see the three environments. So essentially what we have done is we have visualization end to end. We see the on-prem, we see Azure New York, and we see Azure San Francisco. And this is pretty powerful because essentially this is giving you visibility, end-to-end visibility of your application along with the policy which enabled this traffic. And you see the session information as well. So you see sessions initiated, session responded. And if you double click to drill down, you see that there's a session on TCP port 3000. And you see the local and the remote IP. And just to confirm the IP, port 3000 TCP, which we saw earlier. Now if you want to look at the traffic going from my app to DB, meaning my Azure New York to on-prem, the port is 3306, local IP is 255.250, and if I click on the local IP, it's telling me the remote IP 236.182, and let's double confirm 236.182, and the session was 3306. And then also the visualization also gives me some tweaks here as well. Basically this is telling me the policy, the session type, the source tags, and the remote tags. This is along with the in bytes and out bytes information. So very useful to basically filter what traffic I would like to see, whether it's compliant or non-compliant. Okay, let's look at the second scenario. So in the second scenario, we have the web front end and a backend. So backend is running on as a pod on Kubernetes in Azure, whereas my front end is running on a OpenStack VM on-prem. And then the traffic is flowing from my front end to my backend via VSRX. So let's go ahead and take a look at this scenario number 2. So first thing, I'll go to my OpenStack environment. So I have my Ceros VM, which is 2224, and then I have my VSRX. The networks that I have is the pod network and VM network. So again, VM network is where I have my Ceros VM, and pod network is where I've brought up my pod in from Kubernetes environment. And this is how the network topology looks like from OpenStack perspective. Okay, next let's hop on to the console. So this is my 2224. Let me do a ifconfig. So that's my 2224. Let's also bring up my VSRX console. So currently there are no flows, total session 0, and also bring up my San Francisco compute where my pod is running. So essentially I'm doing a TCP dump on the tap interface, and let's go ahead and do a quick ping. And once I do a ping, I do see some traffic in San Francisco, but let's make sure whether the traffic is going through my VSRX. And there it is, my source, my destination, and the return path. So this shows that I can have an application running on-prem on OpenStack, which can go to a backend in Azure, and I can do service chaining by putting a VSRX in between. This is all what I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.